In a world that constantly demands your reaction, your outrage, your defense, there is a quiet power that few dare to cultivate. It is not loud. It does not argue. It does not chase approval. It stands firm, unseen yet unshaken. That power is silence. To be silent is not to be weak. It is to be sovereign over oneself. When insult comes and you do not bow to it. When provocation knocks and you do not open the door. When chaos surrounds you and yet your mind remains undisturbed. This is strength in its purest form. Consider how much of your energy is lost to trifles. Words spoken in haste. Opinions thrown like stones. Judgments cast by those who do not carry your burdens. Must you answer them all? Must you wrestle with every shadow? The disciplined soul knows better. It chooses what deserves attention and releases what does not. To ignore is not to be indifferent to truth or justice. It is to refuse enslavement to noise. Not every voice merits a response. Not every battle deserves your sword. The greatest victory is often the one in which you remain unmoved. When you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, no person, no insult, no storm can command your peace. Silence, then, is not emptiness. It is guarded strength. It is restraint forged by wisdom. It is the quiet declaration that your mind belongs to you and to you alone. There is a misunderstanding that has followed silence through the ages. Many believe it to be the refuge of the timid, the shield of the uncertain, the last defense of those who lack courage. Yet this belief is born not from wisdom, but from haste. For those who speak most often are not always the strongest, and those who remain quiet are not always afraid. Silence, when chosen with intention, is not surrender. It is command. Consider the person who must answer every insult, who must defend every rumor, who must respond to every challenge, as though their worth hangs upon the approval of strangers. This is not strength. It is dependency disguised as boldness. Their peace is held hostage by the tongues of others. They are pulled into battles they did not choose, spending their spirit on matters that will not matter tomorrow. But the one who remains silent, who hears the same insult and lets it dissolve into nothing, reveals a deeper power. They are not controlled. They are not compelled. They are free. Silence is the evidence of inner stability. It shows that your foundation does not tremble when the winds of opinion begin to howl. When you know who you are, you do not rush to prove it. When your conscience is clear, you do not hurry to explain yourself. Words become unnecessary where self-knowledge stands firm. The quiet individual understands that their character speaks more loudly than their voice ever could. There is great discipline in holding one's tongue. The mind may flare with anger. The heart may tighten with the urge to respond. Pride may whisper that you must defend your name. Yet to pause, to breathe, and to remain unmoved, this requires mastery. It is easier to shout than to restrain. Easier to argue than to endure. Easier to react than to govern oneself. Silence, then, is not the absence of strength, but the presence of it in its most refined form. The loud may appear powerful for a moment. Their words fill the air and draw attention. But attention is not authority. Noise is not influence. True authority is calm. It does not seek validation. It does not beg to be heard. It rests within itself, unshaken by passing storms. Such silence is not empty. It is full of awareness, judgment, and deliberate choice. When you choose silence, you choose sovereignty. You declare that your inner world will not be dictated by outer chaos. You decide that not every spark deserves to become a fire within you. In that decision lies dignity. In that restraint lies strength. Silence is not retreat. It is the quiet assertion that your power is internal, steady and beyond the reach of trivial disturbance. There is a moment, small, almost invisible, between what happens to you and how you respond. In that narrow space lies the measure of your character. Most people do not see this space. They live as though their reactions are inevitable, as though anger must follow insult, as though frustration must follow inconvenience. They move as leaves in the wind, blown by every passing circumstance. Yet the disciplined soul understands that reaction is a choice, and emotion, though powerful, is not a master unless you permit it to be. To govern your reaction is to reclaim your authority. When harsh words are spoken, your pulse may quicken. When you are wronged, your chest may tighten. These sensations are natural. They belong to the body. But what you do next belongs to you. You may feed the flame, rehearsing the offense in your mind until it grows into fury. Or you may observe it as one watches a storm from a sheltered place, knowing it will pass if not fueled. The difference between these two paths is the difference between bondage and freedom. Many take pride in speaking their mind as though every thought deserves expression. Yet an unexamined reaction is rarely wisdom. It is impulse, and impulse is the language of those who have not trained themselves. True strength is not displayed in how fiercely you respond, but in how deliberately you choose your response. To remain composed when others expect an outburst unsettles them more than anger ever could. It reveals that you are not easily moved, not easily manipulated. Emotion is not an enemy. It is a signal. Anger may reveal injustice. Fear may signal caution. Sadness may remind you of what you value. But signals are meant to inform, not to command. If you allow emotion to dictate your actions without reflection, you surrender your reason. You become reactive rather than purposeful. The person who masters themselves listens to emotion, but does not kneel before it. Consider how often regret follows uncontrolled reaction. Words spoken in haste carve wounds that apologies struggle to mend. Decisions made in anger create consequences that linger long after the anger fades. A single moment of lost control can undo years of careful effort. Yet restraint preserves what impulse would destroy. In choosing calm over chaos, you protect not only your dignity, but your future. The world will test you endlessly. There will be delays, disappointments, betrayals, and misunderstandings. You cannot command these events to cease, but you can decide that they will not command you. When you respond with steadiness, you shape your experience rather than being shaped by it. Others may remain slaves to their tempers, their fears, their wounded pride. You, however, stand apart, not cold, not unfeeling, but measured, intentional and inwardly firm. In this mastery there is a quiet power. It does not announce itself. It does not boast. It simply remains steady as stone, while the noise of unchecked emotion crashes and fades around. The mind, if left unguarded, becomes a marketplace. Every voice seeks entry. Every opinion demands consideration. Every trivial matter insists upon importance. And if you allow it, your thoughts will be pulled in 100 directions before the day has even begun. The greatest theft in life is not of possessions, but of attention. For what you give your attention to, you give your life to. Distraction rarely appears as an enemy. It disguises itself as urgency. It whispers that this argument must be answered, that this criticism must be corrected, that this fleeting controversy deserves your immediate concern. Yet when you look closely, you will see how little these matters truly shape your destiny. They are sparks in the wind, bright for a moment, then gone. But if you chase each one, you will spend your strength running in circles. To ignore is not to be careless. It is to be selective. It is to recognize that your time and energy are finite and therefore sacred. Not every knock at the door of your mind deserves to be opened. Not every sound requires investigation. There is wisdom in asking, will this matter tomorrow? Will it matter in a year? Does it bring me closer to the person I intend to become? If the answer is no, then let it pass without ceremony. Many are enslaved by distraction because they mistake activity for progress. They fill their hours with reactions, debates, and endless scrolling through the concerns of others. At the end of the day, they feel exhausted yet unchanged. Their attention has been scattered like seeds on barren ground. Discipline, however, gathers attention and directs it with purpose. It chooses depth over noise. It prefers meaningful labor to empty engagement. There will always be those who provoke you, not because they seek truth, but because they seek reaction. They feed upon acknowledgement. To ignore them is to deny them sustenance. When you refuse to engage in fruitless conflict, you preserve your clarity. Your silence becomes a boundary, a quiet declaration that your focus cannot be purchased by irritation. The practice of ignoring distractions requires vigilance. The mind will wander. Curiosity will tempt you. Pride will urge you to defend yourself against minor slights. But with awareness comes choice. You can gently return your attention to what truly deserves it: your work, your principles, your growth. Each time you do so, you strengthen the muscle of discipline. Imagine the calm of a lake untouched by stones. Its surface remains clear, reflecting the sky without distortion. So too does the disciplined mind reflect reality more accurately when it is not constantly disturbed by trivial concerns. Clarity is born from restraint. Progress is born from focus. And focus is preserved by the quiet strength of ignoring what does not serve your higher purpose. There is a force within every person that urges immediate expression. It rises quickly, sharp words ready on the tongue, impulses pressing against the will, desires demanding satisfaction. To yield to this force is effortless. It asks nothing of you but surrender. Yet to restrain it, to hold steady when every instinct pushes you forward, requires a different kind of strength, one that is quiet, deliberate, and enduring. Many confuse freedom with indulgence. They believe that to act on every feeling is to live authentically. But what is authenticity without discipline? If you are governed entirely by impulse, you are not free. You are directed by whatever emotion shouts the loudest. Anger pulls you one way, pride another, fear yet another. Without self-control, your path is dictated by passing states of mind. True strength lies in the ability to pause, to examine, and to decide rather than to react. Restraint is not repression. It is understanding the weight of your actions before you release them into the world. Words once spoken cannot be retrieved. Deeds once done cannot be undone. The undisciplined person learns this lesson through regret. The disciplined person learns it through foresight. They measure their responses not by how satisfying they feel in the moment, but by how consistent they are with their values. Consider how easily tempers flare in moments of disagreement. Voices rise, accusations are made, and in the heat of the exchange, both sides feel justified. Yet what has truly been achieved? Often nothing but division. The one who practices restraint listens more than they speak. They allow others to exhaust their anger while they remain composed. This composure is not weakness. It is control over oneself when control over others is impossible. Self-control also extends beyond speech. It governs desires, ambitions, and appetites. To want is human. To chase every want without reflection is chaos. There are pleasures that offer immediate delight but long-term harm. There are ambitions that promise recognition but compromise integrity. Restraint asks you to consider not only what you can do, but what you should do. It aligns your actions with your principles rather than with fleeting cravings. There is dignity in measured conduct. When you refuse to be provoked, when you decline to indulge harmful impulses, when you remain steady in moments designed to unsettle you, you demonstrate a strength that does not depend on dominance or volume. Others may never see the battles you fight within yourself, the anger you quiet, the temptation you resist, the pride you soften. Yet these invisible victories shape your character. More profoundly than any outward triumph, self-control builds a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. It creates consistency where others are erratic. It establishes reliability where others are unpredictable. Through restraint, your actions become intentional rather than accidental. Guided by principle rather than passion, there is a kind of victory the world celebrates loudly. It is marked by applause, by defeated opponents, by visible triumph. It demands witnesses and recognition. Yet there is another victory, quieter and far more enduring, that often goes unnoticed. It is the victory of peace, the state in which your spirit remains undisturbed despite the turmoil around you. This victory does not depend on conquering others. It depends on mastering yourself. Many pursue conflict as though it were proof of strength. They argue to win, compete to dominate, and engage in endless contests of pride. Even when they succeed, their satisfaction is brief. But the next challenge soon appears, and with it the same restless hunger. Their victories require constant defense. But the person who seeks peace seeks something deeper than triumph over another. They seek freedom from the need to triumph at all. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. Storms will still come. Injustice will still occur. People will still misunderstand and criticize. Peace is the ability to stand within these realities without allowing them to corrupt your inner balance. It is the calm center that remains steady, while circumstances shift like sand beneath your feet. When you possess this calm, you cannot be easily provoked nor easily defeated. There is great power in refusing to turn every disagreement into a battlefield. When insulted, you may choose silence. When challenged unfairly, you may choose composure. When surrounded by chaos, you may choose clarity. In doing so, you deny the world the ability to dictate your state of mind. You become anchored in something more stable than opinion or outcome. Those who chase external victory often sacrifice their peace in the process. They lose sleep over rivalries. They rehearse arguments in their minds. They allow resentment to take root and grow. Even in success, their thoughts remain unsettled. What has been gained if serenity has been lost? What is the worth of a conquered opponent if your own spirit is disturbed? Peace requires strength because it demands restraint. It asks you to release grudges that feel justified. It asks you to forgive when pride urges retaliation. It asks you to accept that not every wrong will be corrected by your hand. This acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. You conserve your energy for what truly matters, and refuse to be consumed by what does not. When you cultivate inner peace, you carry a quiet authority. Others may rage, compete, and strive endlessly, yet you remain centered. Their victories depend on circumstance. Yours depends on character, and character once formed and guarded cannot be taken from you by loss, criticism, or defeat. In this state, you move through the world with steadiness, untouched by its noise, holding within you a victory that requires no audience and no applause.